You're standing at a crossroads. Maybe you don't see it yet, but you feel it. That quiet ache in your chest when you wake up. That whisper in the back of your mind asking, is this really it? You've done everything right, or at least everything you were told to do. You've built the life, you've checked the boxes, you've collected the things, the titles, the accomplishments, and yet something is missing, something essential, something that makes all of this feel like it matters. You're not alone in this. There's a reason you're here watching this. Because somewhere deep inside you know that the life you're living isn't the life you were meant to live. You're carrying so much that isn't yours. Expectations that were planted in you before you could speak. Dreams that belong to someone else. Identities you've worn like armor, protecting you from judgment but slowly suffocating who you really are. And the weight of it all is becoming unbearable. 2,000 years ago, a man faced this same crossroads. His name was Marcus Aurelius. He was the most powerful person on earth, ruling the Roman Empire at its peak. He had wealth beyond measure, armies at his command, the adoration of millions. And yet, in the quiet moments when the crowds faded and the advisors left, he sat alone with his thoughts and wrote these words. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He understood something most people never grasp, that the path to your true purpose requires you to give up everything that isn't it. This isn't about quitting your job or abandoning your responsibilities. This is about something far more radical, far more transformative. This is about releasing your grip on the false self you've constructed, the one that seeks approval, the one that plays it safe, the one that measures worth by external validation. Because until you give up who you think you're supposed to be, you'll never become who you actually are. And your purpose, your real purpose, is waiting on the other side of that surrender. So let me take you on a journey into the heart of what it means to live with purpose. Not the purpose sold to you by culture, not the purpose that looks good on paper, but the purpose that burns in your soul, the one that terrifies you because it demands everything, the one that calls to you in the silence, the one that Marcus himself discovered when he stopped trying to be everything to everyone and started listening to the truth within. Before we begin, do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a like if you feel this stirring something inside you. Comment with one word that describes what you're feeling right now, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because this wisdom isn't meant to be kept, it's meant to be passed on. Now let's begin. Let's start with a truth that's hard to swallow. Most of what you want isn't actually what you want. It's what you were taught to want. It's what your parents wanted for you, what your teachers praised you for, what society rewards, what gets likes and comments and approval. And over time, these borrowed desires became your own. Or at least, you thought they did. But deep down, there's a part of you that knows the difference between authentic desire and conditioned response. And that part of you is screaming. Marcus wrote in his Meditations, how much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only at what he does himself, to make it just and holy. Think about how revolutionary this is. The Emperor of Rome surrounded by thousands of people watching his every move, reminding himself that their opinions don't matter, that the only opinion that matters is the one he holds of himself, that living for external approval is a form of slavery. And yet look at your life. How many choices have you made because of what someone might think? How many dreams have you abandoned because they weren't practical, weren't impressive, weren't what people expected? How many times have you silenced your own voice because someone else's was louder? You've been living in a prison. But here's the thing about this prison. The bars aren't real. They're made of fear, of conditioning, of stories you tell yourself about who you have to be loved, to be safe, to be enough. There's a story about a young man who went to a monastery seeking enlightenment. The master asked him, "What do you want?" The young man said, "I want to find my purpose." The master said, "First, you must empty your cup." The young man looked confused. The master took a teapot and began pouring tea into the young man's already full cup. The tea overflowed, spilling everywhere. "Stop!" the young man shouted. "Can't you see the cup is full?" The master smiled. "Exactly. How can I give you anything new when you're already full of what you think you know, what you think you should want, what you think you should be? Empty your cup first. Only then can you receive your purpose. This is where your journey begins, with emptying, with releasing, with giving up everything that isn't truly yours. And I know what you're thinking, but if I give up all of this, who will I be? What will be left? And that's exactly the question you need to sit with, because the answer isn't found in addition, it's found in subtraction. Your purpose isn't something you add to your life. It's what remains when you strip away everything that isn't it. Marcus had to do this. Despite being emperor, despite the power and prestige, he had to constantly remind himself what was his and what belonged to the role. He had to separate Marcus the man from Marcus the emperor. He had to ask himself again and again, what do I actually value? What would I choose if no one was watching? What matters when all the titles are stripped away? And in that questioning, he found his purpose. Not in ruling empires, but in living virtuously. Not in conquest, but in wisdom. Not in accumulation, but in contribution. You have the same choice. You can keep building a life on a foundation of borrowed dreams, or you can burn it all down and start from what's true. And yes, it's terrifying, because you've invested so much in this identity. You've spent years constructing it, defending it, presenting it to the world. But that identity is a cage, and your purpose is calling from outside the bars. Here's something nobody tells you. Finding your purpose requires a death. Not a physical death, but something just as profound. The death of who you thought you'd be. The death of the version of yourself you've been protecting. The death of the story you've been telling about who you are and where you're going. And death, even symbolic death, is painful. It's supposed to be. Because you can't become something new without letting something old die. Marcus understood this deeply. He wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This is transformation. This is the alchemical process of becoming. But before the flame can create something new, it has to consume what is. And what needs to be consumed in you is the false self, the one you built to survive, the one you constructed from the fragments of praise and punishment, success and failure, love and rejection. Think about who you were supposed to be, the dreams you had as a child before the world told you they were impossible, the version of yourself that got edited, revised, moderated, until it fit into an acceptable mold. Maybe you were supposed to be an artist, but you became an accountant because it was stable. Maybe you were supposed to be a healer, but you became a lawyer because it was prestigious. Maybe you were supposed to be free, but you became safe because freedom was too uncertain. And now, years later, that original dream haunts you. It shows up in moments of quiet. It whispers when you're alone. It aches when you see someone else living the life you once imagined, and you tell yourself stories to make it bearable. You tell yourself it's too late. You tell yourself you have too many responsibilities. You tell yourself that dream wasn't realistic anyway. But those stories are just walls you've built around your grief. The grief of abandoning yourself. There's a concept in psychology called the false self, developed by Donald Winnicott. It's the version of yourself you create to meet external demands, to gain approval, to avoid rejection. It's a mask, but you've worn it so long it feels like your face. And the problem is the false self can never fulfill you. It can never give you purpose, because it's not real. It's a performance, and you can't perform your way to meaning. So the death I'm talking about is this: the death of pretending, the death of performing, the death of living for everyone else. And this death is voluntary. You have to choose it. You have to walk into the fire knowing that what comes out on the other side won't look like what went in. You have to be willing to disappoint people, to confuse them, to let them project their own fears onto your transformation. You have to be willing to lose relationships that were built on the false self, because those relationships can't survive your authenticity. Marcus faced this repeatedly. He was expected to be a certain kind of emperor, ruthless, ambitious, power-hungry. But he chose differently. He chose philosophy over conquest. He chose wisdom over wealth. He chose internal development over external expansion. And it confused people. It disappointed people. But he understood that living his purpose meant dying to their expectations. And he made that choice again and again every single day. You're being asked to make the same choice. Will you keep propping up the false self, feeding it, maintaining it, even though it's killing you slowly, or will you let it die? Will you grieve what could have been and make space for what actually is? Will you release the fantasy of who you thought you'd be and embrace the reality of who you're meant to become? This death isn't an ending. It's a beginning. But you have to walk through the darkness first. You have to sit with the emptiness. You have to feel the loss. Because on the other side of that loss is liberation. On the other side is your true self, waiting patiently for you to stop performing and start living. We live in a world that worships addition. Add more money, more status, more followers, more achievements, more things. We're told that success is accumulation, that purpose is found in doing more, being more, having more. But Marcus knew better. He knew that purpose isn't found in what you add. It's found in what you take away. He wrote, "If thou workest at that which is before thee, asking thyself nothing more than this, whether thou art doing it according to right reason, seeking nothing, fearing nothing, but satisfied with acting according to nature, thou shalt live happily." This is the philosophy of subtraction. Not adding more tasks, more goals, more obligations, but removing everything that isn't aligned with your essential nature, everything that doesn't serve your purpose. Think about your life right now. How much of it is noise? How many commitments did you say yes to because you felt obligated, not because they mattered? How many relationships are you maintaining out of guilt rather than genuine connection? How many habits are you repeating simply because you've always done them? Your life is cluttered, not with physical things, though maybe that too, but with psychic clutter, with energy leaks, with activities that drain you without fulfilling you. And here's the hard truth. You can't add purpose to a cluttered life. You have to make space for it. You have to subtract. You have to cut away everything that isn't essential until what remains is so clear, so obvious, that you can't ignore it anymore. This is what Michelangelo meant when he said he didn't sculpt David, he just removed everything that wasn't David. Your purpose is already there. It's buried under layers of conditioning, obligation, and distraction. And your job isn't to create it. Your job is to excavate it. There's a Zen practice called one thing at a time. It sounds simple, but it's radical, because most of us do 10 things at once, and none of them well. We work while checking email, while thinking about dinner, while worrying about tomorrow. We're everywhere and nowhere. We're busy but not effective. We're moving but not progressing. And in that constant motion, we miss the still small voice that's trying to tell us what actually matters. So, let me ask you something. What would you subtract if you had the courage? What commitment would you release? What relationship would you let go? What belief would you challenge? What habit would you break? What identity would you shed? Because I promise you, on the other side of that subtraction is clarity. On the other side is energy. On the other side is space for your purpose to breathe. Marcus had to subtract constantly. As emperor, people wanted his time, his attention, his approval. Everyone had an agenda. Everyone had a request. And if he had said yes to everything, he would have been pulled in 1,000 directions, effective in none of them. So he learned to say no. He learned to protect his time, his energy, his focus. He learned that saying no to the wrong things was how you say yes to the right things. This isn't about being selfish. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that your life is finite, your energy is limited, and your purpose deserves your best. Not your leftovers. Not the scraps of attention you have left after everyone else takes their share. Your best, your focus, your devotion. And that requires you to be ruthless about what gets your time and what doesn't. So start subtracting. Start with one thing. Maybe it's a commitment that drains you. Maybe it's a relationship that's toxic. Maybe it's a belief that no longer serves you. Remove it. Feel the space it creates. Feel the lightness. Feel the clarity. And then subtract something else. Keep going until your life feels aligned. Until every commitment reflects your values. Until every relationship nourishes you. Until every day moves you closer to your purpose. This is the courage to subtract. And it's harder than the courage to add. Because addition feels like progress. Subtraction feels like loss. But the truth is, what you're losing isn't real. It's just weight. And the lighter you become, the easier it is to fly. There's a call inside you. You've heard it. Maybe for years. Maybe for decades. It's quiet, persistent, patient. It shows up in dreams, in moments of stillness, in that ache you can't quite name. It's the call of your purpose. And you've been ignoring it. Not because you don't hear it, but because hearing it would require you to change everything. And change is terrifying. Marcus wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." This isn't just poetic language. It's a reminder that your life matters, that your choices matter, that the call you're ignoring isn't just about you. It's about the people you're meant to serve, the contribution you're meant to make, the legacy you're meant to leave. And every day you ignore it is a day that contribution doesn't happen, a day that person doesn't get helped, a day your purpose stays dormant. Let's be honest about why you're ignoring it. It's not because you don't know what it is. Deep down, you know, you've always known. It's because answering that call would cost you. It would cost you comfort. It would cost you certainty. It would cost you the approval of people who expect you to stay the same. It would require you to take risks, to be vulnerable, to fail publicly, to disappoint the version of yourself you've been maintaining. There's a story about a woman who worked in corporate finance for 20 years. She was successful by every external measure. 6-figure salary, corner office, impressive title. But every day felt like dying slowly. She had a dream, buried deep, of being a therapist, of helping people heal. But she had a mortgage, kids in college, a reputation. So she ignored the call. Until one day, she couldn't anymore. The weight of living out of alignment became heavier than the fear of change. So she quit. She went back to school. She started over. And for the first time in 2 decades, she felt alive. This is what answering the call looks like. It's messy, it's uncertain, it's terrifying, but it's also liberating. Because living in alignment with your purpose, even if it's difficult, is infinitely more fulfilling than living in comfort, but out of alignment. The call doesn't promise you ease. It promises you meaning. And meaning is what your soul craves more than anything else. Marcus answered his call even though it went against every instinct of self-preservation. He could have been a tyrant. He could have hoarded power, eliminated threats, lived in luxury. But his purpose wasn't power. His purpose was wisdom. His purpose was serving something greater than himself. And so he gave up the life of indulgence and chose the life of service. He gave up the easy path and chose the meaningful one. You have the same choice. You can keep ignoring the call, keep building a life that looks good but feels empty. Or you can answer it. You can step into the unknown. You can risk everything for the chance to live authentically. And I won't lie to you, it's hard. The path of purpose is not the path of least resistance, but it's the only path that leads to fulfillment. It's the only path that, at the end of your life, you'll look back on without regret. So listen. Right now, in this moment, listen to that call. What is it saying? What has it always been saying? And then ask yourself, what would it take to answer it? What would have to change? What would you have to give up? What would you have to risk? And then ask yourself the most important question. Is the life I'm living now worth giving up the life I'm called to live? The call is patient. It will wait. But your time is not infinite, and every day you ignore it is a day you can't get back. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for certainty. Stop waiting for permission. Answer the call. Your purpose is waiting, and the world needs what only you can give. Let me tell you something that might upset you. Comfort is the enemy of purpose, not because there's virtue in suffering, but because purpose requires growth and growth requires discomfort. You cannot become who you're meant to be while staying who you are. You cannot reach your potential while clinging to safety. You cannot fulfill your purpose while prioritizing comfort. Marcus understood this intimately. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every obstacle, every discomfort, every challenge was an opportunity for growth. He didn't avoid difficulty. He moved toward it. Because he knew that his purpose wasn't found in the comfortable spaces. It was found in the friction, in the resistance, in the places that demanded everything from him. Think about where you are right now. You've probably built a comfortable life. Maybe not luxurious, but stable, predictable, safe. You know what to expect. You know your role. You know how to navigate. And that comfort is killing your spirit. Because your purpose doesn't live in the known. It lives in the unknown. It lives in the places that scare you, that challenge you, that force you to become more than you currently are. There's a concept in biology called hormesis. It's the principle that organisms grow stronger through exposure to moderate stress. Muscles grow when they're torn and rebuilt. Immune systems strengthen when exposed to pathogens. Trees grow deeper roots when exposed to wind. And you, your purpose, your potential, all grow through discomfort, through challenge, through being pushed beyond what's comfortable. But we've been conditioned to avoid discomfort at all costs. We medicate it, numb it, distract ourselves from it. We build entire lives around minimizing risk, maximizing security, staying comfortable. And in doing so, we shrink. We become smaller versions of ourselves. We trade growth for safety. We trade purpose for comfort. And then we wonder why life feels so empty. I want you to think about the last time you did something that truly scared you. Not manufactured fear, like a horror movie. Real fear. The fear of vulnerability, of failure, of judgment. When was it? And if you can't remember, that's your answer. That's why your purpose feels distant. Because you've been playing it safe for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to be alive. Marcus didn't have the luxury of comfort. He faced wars, plagues, betrayals, death. And yet, he called these things his teachers. He wrote that every obstacle was an opportunity to practice virtue, to demonstrate character, to grow. He didn't ask for ease. He asked for strength. He didn't pray for fewer problems. He prayed for more wisdom to handle them, because he understood that his purpose was forged in the fire, not in the comfort of shade. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Sacrifice your comfort, not recklessly, not stupidly, but intentionally. Choose the path that scares you. Take the risk you've been avoiding. Have the conversation you've been postponing. Start the project you've been dreaming about. Leave the relationship that's draining you. Quit the job that's killing your soul. Move to the city you've always wanted to live in. Whatever it is that your comfort is protecting you from, walk toward it. Because here's the truth. The life you want, the purpose you're seeking, it's on the other side of your comfort zone. It's in the place you're afraid to go. And as long as you prioritize comfort, you'll never reach it. You'll stay stuck in the safe, small life. And when you're old, looking back, you won't regret the risks you took. You'll regret the ones you didn't. You'll regret choosing comfort over calling. You'll regret playing it safe. Purpose demands everything. It demands your courage, your vulnerability, your willingness to be uncomfortable. And in return, it gives you meaning. It gives you fulfillment. It gives you a life worth living. So give up your comfort. Trade it for something infinitely more valuable. Trade it for your purpose. Now we need to talk about something difficult, something most people won't tell you because it might discourage you. But I'm going to tell you because you need to know. The path to purpose is lonely. Not always. Not forever. But for a while, maybe a long while, you're going to feel alone. Because you're choosing a path most people won't understand. You're answering a call most people have silenced in themselves. And when you do that, you step out of the crowd. And the crowd doesn't always celebrate that. Marcus wrote, How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? He understood that when you live differently, people get uncomfortable, not because you're doing anything to them, but because your authenticity challenges their inauthenticity. Your courage highlights their fear. Your commitment to purpose exposes their commitment to comfort. And sometimes they'll get angry. They'll judge you. They'll tell you you're being irresponsible, selfish, foolish. They'll try to pull you back into the fold. This is one of the hardest parts of the journey, because these aren't strangers. These are the people you love, your family, your friends, your partner. They care about you. They want what's best for you. But what they think is best is often just what's safe, what's conventional, what they would choose. And when you choose differently, it scares them. So they push back, they question, they doubt. And their doubt can feel heavier than your own. There's a story about a man who decided to leave his successful career to become a writer. He told his family. His father was furious. "You're throwing your life away," he said. His mother cried. His friends were confused. Even his partner questioned whether he was having a breakdown. And for months he was alone. Not physically, but emotionally. No one understood. No one supported the decision. He second-guessed himself constantly. But he kept writing. He kept showing up to his purpose. And eventually, slowly, things shifted. He found his people. He found a community of others on similar paths. And the loneliness eased. But here's what you need to understand. The loneliness is part of the process. It's not a sign you're on the wrong path. It's a sign you're on the right one. Because the right path, the path aligned with your purpose, is rarely the popular path. It's the narrow path, the one less traveled. And for a while, you'll be walking it alone. And that's okay. That's necessary. Because the loneliness strips away your need for external validation. It forces you to find validation internally. It teaches you to trust yourself more than you trust the opinions of others. Marcus experienced this deeply. As emperor, surrounded by thousands of people, he was profoundly alone. No one could truly understand the weight he carried. No one could advise him on the impossible decisions he faced. He was isolated by his position, by his purpose, and yet he found solace in philosophy. He found companionship in wisdom. He found strength in his own mind. And that internal strength sustained him when external support wasn't there. You'll need to cultivate the same strength. You'll need to learn to be your own companion, your own cheerleader, your own source of encouragement. Because there will be days when no one else believes in you. Days when everyone thinks you're crazy. Days when you question whether this is all worth it. And on those days, you need to be able to look in the mirror and say, "I believe in this. I believe in me. And I'm not stopping." The loneliness won't last forever. Eventually, you'll find your tribe. You'll find people who get it, who celebrate your authenticity, who inspire you to go deeper. But even if you don't, even if the loneliness persists, it's still worth it. Because living in alignment with your purpose, even if it's lonely, is infinitely better than living surrounded by people but disconnected from yourself. So embrace the loneliness when it comes. Don't run from it. Don't medicate it. Sit with it. Let it teach you. Let it strengthen you. Let it show you that you don't need the crowd's approval to walk your path. You just need your own conviction. And that's enough. That's more than enough. Let's talk about failure. Because if you're serious about living your purpose, you're going to fail. Not once, not twice, many times. You're going to try things that don't work. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall flat on your face. And the question isn't whether you'll fail. The question is, what will you do when you do? Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is a radical reframe of failure. Most people see failure as the end, as proof they're not good enough, not capable enough, not meant for this. But Marcus saw failure as information, as feedback, as an essential part of the process. He understood that every failure is a teacher if you're willing to learn. Think about the most successful people you know, the ones who've truly achieved something meaningful. Do you think they got there without failing? Without making mistakes? Without looking foolish? Of course not. They failed more than most people even try, but they didn't let failure define them. They didn't let it stop them. They used it. They extracted the lesson, adjusted their approach, and kept moving forward. There's a famous story about Thomas Edison. After thousands of failed attempts to create the light bulb, someone asked him how it felt to fail so many times. He said, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This is the mindset of someone committed to purpose. Failure isn't personal. It's not a reflection of your worth, it's just data. It's just part of the experimentation process. But here's what makes failure so painful. We've attached our identity to our outcomes. When we fail, we don't just think, "That approach didn't work." We think, "I'm a failure." We make it mean something about us, about our value, about whether we're enough. And that's the real problem. Not the failure itself, but the story we tell about what it means. So let me give you a different story. What if failure is just your purpose refining itself? What if every mistake is bringing you closer to what actually works? What if the path to your purpose isn't a straight line, but a messy, winding journey full of detours and dead ends? What if the only real failure is giving up? Marcus failed constantly. Battles were lost. Policies didn't work. People betrayed him. Things fell apart. And yet, he didn't see these as reflections of his inadequacy. He saw them as part of the human experience. He saw them as opportunities to practice resilience, adaptability, wisdom. He knew that the measure of a person isn't whether they fail, it's whether they get back up. So here's what I need you to understand. Your purpose isn't fragile. It won't shatter because you made a mistake. It won't disappear because something didn't work. Your purpose is resilient. It's patient. It's waiting for you to try again, and again, and again, until you get it right, or until you get close enough. Because perfection isn't the goal. Progress is, growth is, becoming is. And here's something else. The failures you're most afraid of, the ones that keep you from taking action, they're usually not as catastrophic as you imagine. You think if you quit your job and it doesn't work out, your life is over. But is it? Or do you just have to get another job? You think if you start a business and it fails, you'll be ruined. But will you? Or will you just be a little wiser, a little more experienced, a little more clear about what works and what doesn't? Most of what we fear is just story. It's catastrophizing. It's our minds trying to protect us by exaggerating the danger. But the real danger isn't in failing. It's in never trying. It's in letting fear keep you from your purpose. It's in reaching the end of your life with a list of what-ifs and if-onlys. So fail. Fail boldly. Fail quickly. Fail forward. And every time you do, extract the lesson, adjust your approach, and keep going. Because your purpose is on the other side of your fear of failure. And the only way to reach it is to walk through that fear, again and again, until it no longer has power over you. We're nearing the end of this journey, and there's one more thing you need to understand. Living your purpose isn't just about what you do, it's about what you release. It's about letting go of the things that are weighing you down, the attachments that are keeping you stuck, the identities that no longer serve you. Because you can't move forward while dragging the past behind you. Marcus wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" This is the practice of letting go. Not in a passive way, not in a defeated way, but in a trusting way. Trusting that what leaves your life is making space for what's meant to enter. Trusting that what falls apart is making room for what needs to be built. Trusting that loss, as painful as it is part of the process of becoming. Think about what you're holding on to. Maybe it's a relationship that ended years ago, but you're still carrying the pain. Maybe it's a version of yourself that no longer exists, but you keep trying to resurrect it. Maybe it's a dream that's no longer aligned with who you are, but you can't let it go because of how much you've invested in it. Maybe it's resentment, anger, blame. Whatever it is, it's taking up space. And that space is where your purpose needs to live. There's a beautiful metaphor in nature. Trees don't hold on to their leaves in winter. They let them fall, not because the leaves are bad or wrong, but because holding on to them would drain the tree's energy. The tree lets go so it can survive, so it can conserve resources, so it can prepare for spring. And when spring comes, new leaves grow. Different leaves. But the tree doesn't mourn the old ones. It trusts the cycle. You need to learn this trust. You need to learn to let go without knowing what's coming next, to release without guarantees, to trust that the space created by letting go will be filled with something better, something more aligned, something that serves your purpose. But this requires faith. Not religious faith necessarily, but faith in the process. Faith in yourself. Faith that life is working for you, not against you. Marcus had to let go constantly. He had to let go of loved ones who died. He had to let go of plans that didn't work. He had to let go of the illusion of control. And every time he did, it hurt. Because letting go always hurts. But he understood that holding on would hurt more. That clinging to what's gone would prevent him from being present to what is. That attachment is the source of suffering. So what do you need to let go of? What are you gripping so tightly that your hands are cramping? What identity are you clinging to that's no longer true? What relationship are you maintaining out of obligation? What dream are you chasing out of stubbornness? What pain are you holding on to because it's familiar? Because it's become part of your story? Because letting it go would mean you have to be someone new? Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It doesn't mean it didn't matter. It means you're honoring yourself enough to release what's no longer serving you. It means you're choosing your future over your past. It means you're making space for your purpose to unfold. And here's what's beautiful about letting go. It's not a one-time event. It's a practice. You'll have to do it again and again. Every day there will be something to release. A thought that's not serving you. An expectation that's causing suffering. A story that's keeping you small. And every time you let go, you become lighter. You become freer. You become more aligned with who you're meant to be. So practice letting go. Start with something small. A grudge, a regret, a should, and feel what happens. Feel the lightness. Feel the space, and then let go of something else. Keep practicing until letting go becomes second nature. Until you're no longer defined by what you hold on to, but by what you release. Until you understand that everything you need is already within you, and everything else is just extra weight. Now we arrive at perhaps the most profound truth of all. Your purpose isn't about you. It's not about your glory, your recognition, your success. Your purpose is about service. It's about contribution. It's about being part of something greater than yourself. And until you understand this, until you truly surrender to it, you'll always feel like something is missing. Marcus wrote, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." He understood that he was part of a larger whole, that his purpose wasn't separate from the collective good, that his role, his gifts, his life, were meant to serve something beyond his individual needs. And in that service he found meaning that no personal achievement could ever provide. This is the paradox of purpose. You find it by giving it away. You discover who you're meant to be by serving who you're meant to serve. You fulfill yourself by forgetting yourself. Because when you make your purpose about you, about your ego, about your validation, it becomes a burden. But when you make it about service, about contribution, about love, it becomes a calling. And a calling is infinitely more powerful than a goal. Think about the people who inspire you most. The ones who've truly made a difference. Are they serving themselves, or are they serving something greater? Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't fighting for personal glory. He was fighting for justice. Mother Teresa wasn't helping the poor for recognition. She was doing it out of love. Marcus Aurelius wasn't ruling for power. He was ruling out of duty. Their purpose was in service, and that's what made it sacred. But we live in a culture that worships the individual, that tells us to do what makes you happy, to follow your passion, to live your best life. And while there's truth in that, it's incomplete. Because happiness that's self-focused is fleeting. Passion without purpose is just pleasure-seeking. And your best life can't be built on self-interest alone. Real fulfillment comes from giving, from serving, from being part of something that matters. There's a concept in many spiritual traditions called ego death. It's the dissolution of the separate self, the realization that you're not an isolated individual but part of an interconnected whole. And while that might sound abstract, it's actually incredibly practical. Because when you stop seeing yourself as separate, when you start seeing yourself as connected, your purpose becomes obvious. It's not, what do I want? It's, what does the world need from me? Marcus practiced this daily. He would ask himself, what am I here to do today? Not for himself, but for Rome, for his people, for the future. He saw himself as an instrument of something larger. And in that seeing, he found clarity, he found direction, he found peace. Because when your purpose is about service, you stop worrying about whether you're enough. You just show up and give what you have. So let me ask you, who are you meant to serve? What community, what cause, what group of people is calling for your gifts? Because your purpose isn't some abstract concept. It's specific. It's concrete. It's the place where your gifts meet the world's needs. And when you find that intersection, when you surrender to it, everything changes. This doesn't mean you become a martyr. It doesn't mean you sacrifice yourself to the point of depletion. Service isn't self-destruction. It's self-expression. It's using your unique gifts, your unique perspective, your unique experience to make a contribution that only you can make. And in doing so, you become more yourself, not less. So surrender. Surrender your need to be special. Surrender your need to be recognized. Surrender your need to have it all figured out. And instead ask, how can I serve? Ask it every day. Ask it in every situation. Ask it until the answer becomes your compass, your guide, your purpose. Because the world doesn't need more people chasing personal success, it needs more people committed to service. And you, with all your gifts, all your experience, all your unique perspective, you have something to give. Something that matters. Something that's needed. Don't waste it on building monuments to yourself. Give it away. Serve something greater. And in that service, you'll find what you've been searching for all along. A purpose worth living for. We've come to the end, but really this is just the beginning. Because understanding your purpose intellectually is one thing. Living it is another. And the gap between knowing and doing is where most people get stuck. They have insights, revelations, moments of clarity. And then they go back to life as usual. They wait for the perfect moment, the right circumstances, the ideal conditions. And they wait forever. Marcus wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This is urgency. This is the recognition that you don't have forever. That purpose isn't something you get to eventually. It's something you live now. Today. In this moment. Because this moment is all you ever have. And if you're waiting for someday to live your purpose, you're wasting the only day that actually exists. So let's be clear about what living your purpose actually looks like. It's not one dramatic decision. It's 1,000 small choices. It's waking up and asking, what serves my purpose today? It's saying no to what doesn't align. It's saying yes to what scares you. It's showing up consistently, even when you don't feel like it. It's choosing courage over comfort. It's choosing growth over safety. It's choosing authenticity over approval. Every single day. Your purpose isn't a destination. It's not something you arrive at and then you're done. It's a direction. It's a way of being. It's a commitment you make and remake every moment. And some days will be hard. Some days you'll doubt. Some days you'll want to quit. And that's okay. Because purpose isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about getting back up when you fall. It's about remembering why you started when you forget where you're going. There's a final story I want to share with you. It's about a monk who spent years seeking enlightenment. He meditated, studied, practiced, and one day his master asked him, "What is the way?" The monk, expecting some profound teaching, leaned in. The master said, "When you're hungry, eat. When you're tired, sleep. When it's time to work, work." The monk was confused. "But everyone does that." The master smiled. "No. Everyone thinks about yesterday while eating. Everyone worries about tomorrow while sleeping. Everyone daydreams while working. Very few people are actually present to what they're doing, and being present is the way. This is the secret of living your purpose, presence, being fully here, fully committed, fully alive to this moment, not thinking about how far you have to go, not dwelling on how far you've come, just being here, doing what's in front of you with full attention, full intention, full heart. Marcus lived this way. Every day he wrote in his journal, reminding himself of what mattered. Every day he faced challenges that would have broken most people. Every day he chose his purpose over his comfort. And he did it not because he was superhuman, but because he understood something fundamental. The only moment you can ever act in is now. The only life you can ever live is this one. The only purpose you can ever fulfill is the one you choose, right here, right now. So what will you choose? Will you keep waiting for permission, for certainty, for the perfect moment? Or will you start today? Will you take one step, however small, toward your purpose? Will you have one conversation you've been avoiding? Will you start one project you've been dreaming about? Will you let go of one thing that's holding you back? Because here's the truth. Your purpose doesn't require you to have everything figured out. It just requires you to begin, to take the first step, and then the next, and then the next. Trusting that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. Trusting that you have everything you need for the step you're on. Trusting that your purpose isn't some far-off destination, but something that's alive in you right now, waiting for you to give it expression. Marcus gave up everything to live his purpose, his comfort, his privacy, his personal desires. He gave it all to serve something greater, and what he gained was a life of meaning, a legacy of wisdom, a testament to what's possible when you align your life with your purpose. You're being asked to do the same. Not to be emperor, not to rule nations, but to rule yourself, to master your mind, to give up everything that isn't aligned with who you're meant to be, to answer the call that's been whispering to you all along, to live not for applause or approval, but for truth, for service, for love. This is your moment. This is your time. Everything you've experienced, everything you've learned, everything you've suffered, it's all been preparing you for this, for stepping fully into your purpose, for giving the world the gift that only you can give, for living the life you were always meant to live. So give up everything. Give up the false self. Give up the borrowed dreams. Give up the need for certainty. Give up the safety of staying small. And in that giving up, you'll find what you've been searching for all along. You'll find yourself, your true self, your purpose, your calling. And when you do, when you finally align your life with your purpose, everything changes. Not externally necessarily. The world might look the same. But internally, you'll know. You'll feel it. The sense of rightness, the feeling of coming home, the deep, unshakable peace of living in alignment with your truth. This is what Marcus discovered. This is what I'm inviting you to discover. Not through me, not through some external authority, but through yourself, through your own courage, through your own commitment, through your own willingness to give up everything to live your purpose. The journey starts now, not someday, now, in this moment, with this choice, to let go of who you've been and become who you're meant to be, to surrender everything and gain everything, to give your life to your purpose and discover that in doing so, you finally, truly, live. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for having the courage to even consider this path. Now go, give up everything, and live your purpose. The world is waiting. And so is the truest version of you.